Eliza had a rough day at work. As an administrative assistant to the city manager, Andrew, the stress had piled up. Then, her teenage son called, and his simple request almost pushed her to the edge. "Mom, the light in my bathroom is burned out," he said, his voice barely a whine. Eliza gritted her teeth, replying, "Then change it. You know where we keep the spare bulbs." She didn't need this right now, not after the planning commission meeting had turned into a chaotic mess of shouting and name-calling, with her overbearing boss nearly firing her for not having the right paperwork. How was she supposed to know they wouldn't follow the agenda? The meeting had been a disaster, and she was tired of it. She zoned out as her son continued talking. "You're not listening," Liam said, the irritation clear in his voice. Eliza thought, if only he were still small enough for a swat on the behind, but that wasn't possible anymore. Still, she lied, "Yes, I am." "It's not the big light," Liam explained, "it's the nightlight by the sink, under the mirror, near the switch. You know, the one with the blue glow. It burned out last night." She couldn't help herself. "You're 19, Liam. You don't need a nightlight." But Liam responded calmly, "Yes, I do. I can't see in the dark." The truth was, Liam was still afraid of the dark, and Eliza knew that. But she didn't want to dwell on it now. "Then go get a new one," she said. "They sell them at the Quickie Mart. They want $3.50 for the one I need, and I don't have it. You didn't leave me any money today. Can you pick one up on your way home?" Eliza sighed. "I saw in the paper that the same kind is sold at Lamps R Us in the mall near you for less than $1. Liam hesitated but agreed. "Okay, thanks." Eliza smiled a little. "You're still my baby," she said. "Stop calling me that," Liam protested, his voice cracking. She rolled her eyes but let it slide. Liam was 19, attending college but still living off the money she gave him, mostly spent on video games and snacks. She frowned, realizing how much more he should have done by now. He had never really worked, except for a brief summer job at a fast food place. She didn't want to think about the other things. After saying goodbye to Liam, Eliza drove to the mall, the task of picking up a nightlight almost forgotten. She was tired but had promised, so she parked and entered the mall. She found the store listed as Lamps R Us on the directory but was surprised when she arrived at a tiny, cramped shop. The sign didn't read Lamps R Us, but spells R Us. Curious and slightly annoyed, Eliza decided to go in and ask for directions to the store she actually wanted. The store was empty, except for an odd coat rack covered with an old blanket. To her surprise, it turned around and revealed an elderly man, with a bushy beard and wrinkled face. "May I help you?" he asked. Eliza nearly gasped. "Who are you?" The man grinned, his teeth surprisingly white against his aged face. "The proprietor of this establishment, the wizard in residence," he said with a mischievous glint in his eye. Eliza couldn't believe it. "A wizard," she muttered to herself, rolling her eyes. "Probably a theater major." "Can I help you with something?" the man asked, cutting her off before she could even finish asking for directions. She was too stunned to reply. "No, I meant, how did you know?" Eliza asked, her voice shaky. "You must have been talking to yourself." The wizard's eyes gleamed with amusement. "Well, reading minds isn't my thing. I think it's far more likely that you were talking to yourself. Wasn't it?" His eyes, were they blue, gray, green, or hazel? Eliza couldn't quite tell, but they sparkled brightly as he spoke. "At least today." Eliza almost didn't jump in surprise. "A nightlight? Of course, you don't have anything like that here, do you?" "No," he replied calmly, his voice soft but pointed. "I didn't think so. You're afraid of me now, aren't you?" "Fear," he continued, "is one of the dark things, isn't it?" The old man, though bent and gnarled, was still taller than her by several inches. Eliza wondered why she couldn't just leave, why she was still standing there, listening to this madman, her hands clenched and unclenched. "You need a nightlight to chase away the fear," he said, almost gently. "But fear isn't the worst thing that lives in the dark." He studied her face closely, not unkindly, but perhaps with a certain detachment. Guilt lives in the dark too. Eliza's heart clenched in her chest, her breath hitched in her throat. She tried to speak, but no words came out. "Did you say your son's name is Liam?" the wizard asked, a slight smile playing on his lips. Eliza hadn't mentioned his name, had she? The wizard went on, "The boy who's afraid of the dark, the one who was afraid 12 years ago, the night you left your husband's side and went to sleep with him. Do you remember?" Eliza didn't speak, but he continued, nodding as if to answer his own questions. "Why did you leave? Your husband wouldn't let the child join you in your bed, right? He was 7. He needed to learn to sleep alone. Wasn't that what he said?" Eliza's neck stiffened, her hair standing on end. The wizard's voice mimicked Charles's perfectly, her late husband's voice, a voice she hadn't heard in 12 years. The words were right too. The wizard leaned closer. Eliza unconsciously leaned toward him, despite herself. "The boy also heard your husband, didn't he?" She nodded, feeling her throat tighten again, the way it always did when she thought of that night, the night that still haunted her. The wizard spoke calmly. "It's not fear that tightens your throat, is it? It's guilt. Guilt that you're alive, and Charles is dead." He paused, letting the words sink in. Eliza tried desperately to block the thoughts flooding her mind. "You even feel guilty that your son is alive when your husband is not," the wizard added softly. "Don't you?" Tears rolled down Eliza's cheek. What kind of place was this? What kind of man knew so much about her? What was he going to do? Was he the devil? An angel? "No," the wizard said, almost kindly. "But I may be an agent of a higher power." His eyes didn't twinkle, but his words hung in the air like a challenge. "Would I know if I were?" The wizard casually began opening drawers in a large chest, inspecting the contents. He didn't take anything out, just peered inside and closed each one again. The noise was either laughter or sobbing, but she couldn't tell which. "How long have you known about Liam wearing your clothes when you're out of the house?" the wizard asked, not looking up from his inventory. "You're frillis, and such." Eliza's voice was a whisper. "Years." "Has he ever left the house wearing them?" the wizard continued. Eliza shook her head, her gaze dropping. "I don't know." "Do you think he knows that you know?" the wizard asked, his eyes never leaving his drawers. Eliza closed her eyes, unwilling to see what the wizard was holding in his gnarled old hand. But she couldn't stop herself from speaking. "Liam knows that I know," she said quietly, the truth sitting heavy in her chest. "But we never talk about it. The guilty little secret we both share." The wizard removed something from one of the drawers, something small and squirming. Eliza tried to avoid looking but couldn't. "Why have you bought things just for him, and left them where he'd find them, so he'd stop stretching your clothes out of shape? You never saw those things again, did you?" the wizard asked, almost curiously. "Why are you doing this?" Eliza asked, a hint of anger creeping into her voice. "How do you know all this?" "Liam's just a boy with a problem," she trailed off, glancing at the object in the wizard's hand. "I should get him some counseling." The wizard held the object out. "It's the nightlight you needed," he said, his face twisting as he said the price. 79 cents. Plus tax, 87 cents. Eliza took out $1, left the pennies as change, grabbed the nightlight, and hurried out of the store, her heart pounding in her chest. She almost glanced back to see if the strange little store had vanished behind her as soon as she stepped out. The wizard watched her leave, satisfied that he'd found the perfect item for her. He'd known it was in the shop, though he could have easily made one himself. A nightlight was a simple thing to craft. He dropped the 13 copper coins into a bowl labeled "Need a penny?" "Take a penny. Have a penny. Leave a penny," and smiled to himself. Yes, that nightlight was exactly what she needed. It was pink. Back at home, Liam was definitely complaining this time. "I'm sorry, I didn't notice," Eliza sighed wearily. "If you knew what I went through to get this nightlight. It has fairies and pink bunnies around the bulb." And it's a nightlight for a little girl. Liam's voice cracked with dread. A nightlight? Yes, Liam. Just a nightlight. Use it or don't, Eliza replied, moving tiredly into the kitchen to check what he might have made for dinner. Cheeseburger mac again? But it's pink. I distinctly said I wanted a blue one, Liam complained. Eliza shot him a glare from the kitchen door, but they ate in silence. Eliza had made a small salad, and they both drank caffeine-free Diet Cokes while eating the cheeseburger macaroni in the living room. The TV murmured on about some crisis in a faraway place, an issue for presidents and wizards alike. They probably had their own troubles. The nightlight sat on the table between them, ignored for a while. Eliza couldn't help but think of the nightlight as part of some old black-and-white TV show with eerie music. She tried to ignore the implications, but could she really dismiss the idea of magic? After all, she had just dealt with a wizard. How could she not believe in magic now? She smiled a little, aware of her circular thinking. Liam picked up the nightlight and turned it over in his hands a few times, inspecting it closely. "Why in the world did you buy a little girl's nightlight for me?" he asked, blushing slightly. Eliza shook her head. "You weren't there. Believe me, I would have bought a cement mixer if I could have gotten out of that shop faster." Mom, is this some kind of message?" Liam asked, his voice carrying an unspoken question. He blushed again as he waited for her response. Eliza repeated, "Message?" Maybe she just didn't want to acknowledge what he was hinting at. "Never mind," Liam muttered, blushing harder. He finished cleaning up the kitchen while his mother stayed in the living room, watching TV, trying to unwind. Liam knew how hard his mother worked, so he took on most of the household chores, cooking, cleaning, even washing her intimate clothes. Eliza allowed it, even though it made her feel guilty. Guilty. That word made her think of the nightlight again. Hadn't the wizard said something about guilt being one of the fears that lurked in the dark? That's why she needed the nightlight. But why had he sold her a little girl's nightlight for her teenage son's bathroom? He knew everything about Charles's death 12 years ago, Liam's habits. If the old man really was a wizard, then the nightlight must have been magical. What would happen if Liam put it up in his bathroom? Would it turn him into a little girl? Did she want that for her son? Liam came in from the kitchen and sat on the floor beside her chair, resting his head on the armrest. He stretched his hand out to her, and she grasped it. They watched a rerun of Touched by an Angel on the Family Channel. Eliza thought, Liam would be happier if he were a girl. She remembered how, even before Charles's murder, Liam had always been a quiet child who preferred talking to her over playing with the other boys. He'd been fascinated when she put on makeup and once asked her, "Why are some grown-ups mommies and some daddies? Why are some kids boys and some girls?" She hadn't known the answer then, and even now, though she understood it better, she knew it still wasn't the answer Liam was looking for. Liam had been wanting to ask, and Eliza noticed him slouching against her chair, his head just beside her elbow. "Are you going to use the nightlight?" she asked. He shrugged. "I guess I really do need one, Mom." If he used it, with its magic, would it somehow chase away the guilt they both carried, guilt from surviving that awful night? How powerful was it? Could it bring Charles back after 12 years? The insurance had paid off the mortgage, but they'd moved within the year to a smaller house, putting the difference between the sale and the purchase into the bank. Staying there would have been too painful. Charles had been the only man she'd ever loved. She hadn't even considered remarrying, had avoided dating, and distanced herself from friends who tried to set her up with eligible men. Could that little pink nightlight really wash away such deep guilt, buried in the crevices of her soul? Maybe if she had remarried, Liam would have had a role model and wouldn't be hiding in her underwear when he thought no one would notice. Maybe the nightlight would turn back time, make Liam a little girl again, the kind Charles would let sleep in their bed, because it's okay for little girls to be afraid of the dark. And then they could all be in the same bed. The burglar might have killed all of them, but at least they wouldn't feel guilty anymore. Or would they? Maybe Charles's ghost felt guilty too, guilty for sending his only child to sleep alone on the last night he would ever see his father. If they were all gone, would they still feel guilty? If magic were real, why not ghosts? Liam stood up. I'm going to bed, Mom. Got an early day. He stood so tall now, at 19, taller than Charles had been. Eliza put her arms up, and Liam bent to kiss her on the cheek. They did this often because, despite everything, they really did love each other, even when they were unhappy together. She had kissed Charles goodnight and goodbye 12 years ago, when she went to sleep in Liam's room. Was she kissing her son goodbye now? Mom? Liam asked, pulling away. Let go. She removed her arms from around his neck, letting him stand up. Would the nightlight change that too? He'd make a very tall girl, or maybe the light would change everything. Liam smiled at her and trudged down the short hallway to his room. Eliza couldn't tell if he had taken the nightlight with him, nor did she ask if he plugged the little pink light into the outlet in his bathroom. If the light worked its magic, would Liam change immediately? Would he shrink? Would his skin soften, his hips widen, and soft mounds of breasts form on his chest? Would his voice become lighter, softer, sweeter? Would his wardrobe change too, his jeans turning into dresses and his sneakers into high heels? The nightlight could turn Liam into a girl. She might be pretty, and she'd want nice clothes. Or would the light wait until Liam fell asleep, then work its magic overnight? Would he wake up as a young woman, never knowing he had been a boy who felt guilty for his father's death? Should she warn him? Should she tell him what might happen if he uses the nightlight? Would he believe her? Would she feel guilty for turning her son into her daughter if that's what happened? She fell asleep in the living room chair, still unsure of what she should do. If magic were real, if the past could be changed, could a little pink nightlight wash away guilt and horror, make everything right again? Mom, Liam's voice woke her. You really ought to get up and go to bed. You'll have a stiff neck sleeping in the chair. Eliza stretched, glancing at the clock. It was well past midnight. She could see Liam smiling in the dim light from the window. She closed her eyes for a moment, still half asleep. Mom, I'm awake. I had the strangest dream. Eliza shook her head, trying to clear the fog. Something about a nightlight. I don't get it, but I don't think it was just a dream. Liam stood there, wearing her pink lace nightgown, her long champagne-colored hair glowing deeper than mahogany in the dim light, cascading around her delicate heart-shaped face. You're beautiful, Eliza whispered. Liam giggled. Mom, Carl tells me that all the time. Don't you start, it's embarrassing. I'm a model. Being pretty is just part of the job. Eliza grinned. Kyle was Liam's boyfriend, and they might be getting married soon. You're not just pretty, you're beautiful. There's a difference. Okay, but it's just genes and good nutrition. And whose fault is that? Liam grinned back. Mine, I guess, Eliza admitted. I married your father, and he was the handsomest man I ever knew. Liam nodded solemnly. Daddy was a hunk, all right. Eliza shook her head again. It wasn't a dream, was it? You were a boy, and we both felt so guilty about your father. Liam nodded, her blue eyes misting up a bit. It's kind of like looking down two different tunnels that start at the same place. I get cross-eyed just thinking about it. And Daddy, Eliza continued, her voice trailing off. This time, we were all in the same bed. Your father fought the burglar, and the gun went off, just like last time. And he died. Liam sniffed. How can we both feel like we've lived this life before, but it's different? It's like sideways reincarnation. Are we both crazy, Mom? Eliza stood up and embraced her daughter. No, baby, I don't think we are. Not now, maybe a little before. Hey, you're still taller than me. They hugged and sniffled on each other's shoulders for a bit. But I'm not taller than Daddy anymore, Liam said. I wouldn't want to be. Kyle likes me just this tall. He told me so. They both giggled a little. Kyle liked everything about Liam, just the way she was, her face, her hair, her voice. You two love each other a lot, don't you? Eliza asked, gently smoothing Liam's long strands of hair. Liam thought for a moment and decided her mother meant quality, not frequency, so it was safe to answer. Aha! And you're so going to meet Kyle's Uncle Aaron. I'll be moving out soon, and I don't want you to be lonely. Daddy wouldn't want you to be lonely. They were both quiet for a while. Daddy loved us very much, didn't he? Liam asked. Yes. He died saving our lives, you know, Eliza replied. He always loved us both, even when you were a boy. He loved you so much, Liam. It's just easier to see it this time, like it's in a different light or something. They walked down the short hall to the bedrooms. I still feel sad about Daddy, Liam said softly. But he kissed me just before I went to sleep, and then there was the noise, the gunshot. Do you think we'll forget those other lives? The ones where we felt so guilty about everything? Will we think they were just dreams in the morning? I don't know, baby, Eliza replied. But can I sleep in here with you for the rest of the night? Sometimes I'm a little afraid of the dark too. And you've got a nightlight, Liam smiled, following her mother into the dark bedroom, dimly lit by the soft pink glow of the pretty little girl's nightlight. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for early access and exclusive content.